In this daily drop, I'm going to talk about a viewer's comments having to do with the footage from my recent shoot not being exactly level. So let's go. Okay, everybody, brand new week here and a brand new episode. And before I head out the door for about a week and a half's worth of work shooting B-roll for the project I was just doing, we were conducting about 20 interviews as part of a large project I'm doing for a school. And that's what the last two episodes of the Daily Drop were about. They were about the looking camera right, looking camera left, and the basic setup of that particular interview shoot. Now I'm going into B-roll land, and hopefully I'll get to do an episode where I talk about my setup for that, which will largely be based on the iFootage Shark Nano 2 and the C80, but I'm going to break out, I think, what I call the camera Bjorn for that as well, especially for the exterior outside stuff that we're going to be shooting. So I'll get to that, but there was a viewer who made a comment. It really bothered them that the footage that I used for the daily drop from those interview setups was not exactly level. Level, right? We've got vertical lines, we've got the leveling of the image itself. And I want to preface this with not excuses, but when I'm doing the daily drop, it's not final image, right? This is just right out of the camera, and I might make an adjustment in terms of scale. I'm not going in there and making major adjustments. This is stuff that's right off of cards, and I'm doing 5 of these episodes a week. So there's no color correction usually. There isn't usually any adjustments in terms of other stuff. And yes, in an ideal world, when you are setting up your cameras for production, you should have everything perfectly level. But that's not always reality. And in situations like the shoot that I just did, I'm it. I mean, when it comes to production, I did have one other person from the school who was extremely helpful. So I'm not saying I didn't have any help at all. But when it came to setting up the cameras, setting the audio up, setting the lighting up, that was all me. So already we're starting with not enough people when it comes to the production. And so I have some things that I put into place that give me a little bit of safety when it means getting into post-production, so that I have some leeway, or the editor has some leeway. So I tend to go a little bit wider, especially on my A camera, than necessary. It's 4K footage, and we usually have some leeway, about 10 to 20% in terms of being able to crop into that without any real downside. And then there can be adjustments in terms of rotation, leveling, and things like that. Again, not an excuse. In an ideal world, you're getting everything perfect, but that's basically the deal. So what I'm going to do is go over to my computer. I'm going to start playing back a clip. I'll go full screen for you to take a look at this. And what we're going to do is take a look at, sorry about that, the pie's ready. We're going to go ahead and take a look at footage from both of the different interviews where talent was looking camera right, talent was looking camera left. And I'll show you the actual composition in terms of the wider shot. Then I'll go into a cropped version of that, scaled up a little bit. And then you'll see some grid lines or guidelines there, so you can see that it is, in fact, not perfectly level. And then I'll go into another version of that scaled one of the interviews and just make an adjustment. And just to let you know, it was about a 1.5 degree adjustment in terms of getting it so that the vertical lines in the frame were basically where they should be. That said, and I did reply to the person's comments, I said sometimes when you're shooting down the line, right? So you're not shooting directly at a wall, but you're shooting on an angle down the line. Getting everything to sit perfectly vertical within the frame is kind of hard sometimes. You know, there are so many variables. Yes, if your camera is exactly level to the eye line of the person, right? And you're shooting down the line, it might be slightly better. But usually you are tilting the camera up or down slightly. I had a 24-105 on A camera, 70-200 on B. It's going to be hard to get everything exactly level all of the time. And when, again, you're shooting down the line and you have different vertical lines, you'll see on the second setup that when I do adjust it so that the lines in the main window are basically straight, the lines in the far right side of the frame for that little window, they're still going to be on a slight angle. I'm not using tilt shift lenses. I'm not always going to have everything exactly level in terms of the lenses pointed at the walls. There are variables in the physical world that come into play, and if it bothers you, it bothers you. It didn't bother me, and I know that these things are going to get addressed in post to the point where I'm going to be fine with them for sure. So let me go ahead and play this back. Here is the original frame from the first interview that we're going to take a look at right now, and you'll see that's the widest shot. So nothing has changed here. This is just straight out of camera. And then we're going to go into that same shot, which is scaled up to, I think, 109%. You can see the grid lines here, and they show you that that window isn't perfectly where it should be. So we're going to go ahead and adjust that. It's a minus 1.5 degrees, and you can see that those grid lines are where they're going to be. Here's the second day's setup. You can see I'm shooting down the line. Over my left shoulder is the part to really look at. That's actually quite straight right now overall, but here's the crop version, and you can see there it's still pretty straight for that far window, but look at the main window over there. So then when we crop in to and also adjust the rotation, again, about a 1.5 degree rotation, you'll see that those far windows don't look perfectly straight. So that's just the reality. And there's nothing I can do to change that. I know that it really bothered that person in terms of the comments that they had, and they didn't particularly like my answer to their original comment. That's okay. But the Daily Drop is about discussing these things. I'm not taking those comments down. I never do unless it's some sort of spam thing. And these are all the realities of what we deal with. If we got it perfect every single time, first of all, our jobs would be really boring. I'm telling you that right now. We're not going to. And that's just, again, the realities of production. But that's all I got for you on this one. It's good to have these dialogues. Interested in your comments on it. Don't forget to, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.